Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Nicole and I am from Section C. And for today, I will be presenting the section Formatting the Page from Module 5, which is Layout and Packaging of Print Materials. So I know this might sound a bit technical, but really it's just about how to make print documents clearer, more professional, and easier to read for everyone, especially for our target audience. So first, allow me to define what I mean or what we mean by formatting. So when we say formatting, we're actually talking about how a page is arranged so it looks neat, consistent, and credible. So when I say formatting, it includes things like the paper choice that we have, the margins that we will be using, the fonts, the font pairings to be exact, the spacing, the lines, the numberings. Basically, it's about making the document not only informative, but also pleasant and easy to follow for its readers. Okay, so here's an anatomy of our whole paper. So when I say format, what I mean by that, or what we mean by that, is its margin, page edge, the bleed, the crop marks, or whatever, the page numberings, if there are any. So that's the format. Now, when I say layout, it's the overall arrangement of the fonts, the designs that we have. So as you can see here, it's the one under the yellow square. Now, when I say the packaging, it's the overall look of our whole paper. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Now, let's discuss about the best practices that we can use in our print materials. So first, that will be using the right paper and ink. One important aspect is using the right paper and ink in all our print materials. For instance, reports should be printed in black ink on plain white paper so that it would look cleaner, more professional. But imagine using or printing something on a neon paper with colored ink for a formal report. That might be a little bit distracting for the readers. So just imagine you reading a paper printed on a colored paper with red font. That will look a bit harder to read. And for me personally, whenever I find it hard to read something, it's also very difficult for me to understand it. So yeah, just like what I mentioned earlier, we should match the paper and ink to whatever we are planning to talk about or the message that we have. So as an example I mentioned earlier, if you're writing a report, black ink on white paper is really the most advisable one. For flyers and brochure, yes, we can do colored ones, but make sure that the font colors that we are going to use will be very, very easy for us to read. If we find it hard to read it, what more for our target audience, right? So there we go. Next is write neatly and clearly. So make sure the text is easy to read, just like what I mentioned earlier. Use clean fonts, proper sizes, and avoid clutter. So whenever I do research paper, the most common fonts that I use is Arial 12 or Times New Roman in 12. Clean spacing, no clutter. Usually when it's a research paper, it's double spaced. So there. And we also avoid using multiple fonts. In my professional experience as a copywriter and as a content writer, whenever I do contents for a client, we usually, as much as we can, we only use maximum of three font pairings. And uh, they must complement each other so that it would be very easy for the eyes to read and for the audience to actually understand it. Next, we have to number our pages consistently. So be consistent with the page numbers. So if you want to put it at the top, just put it at the top from start to finish. If it's at the bottom, if it's at the left side or the right hand side, be consistent on those. No need to number the cover or first page or first chapter page. And what's nice in having a page number is that it would be very easy for the readers to navigate your paper, especially if you have your table of contents. So, what do I mean by be consistent with page numbers? So, just like in my example in here, so once you decided that you want your page numbers to be at the bottom center of your paper, make sure all throughout the whole paper it's at the bottom and at the center. Okay, so what don't you want to do? You don't want to have pages on your paper with numbers or page numbers in it, and some don't. You don't want that. And you also do not want to have numbers switched or page numbers switched between top and bottom because that would really confuse your readers. So does this even happen? Well, for me, yes, it does. So on a personal experience, I usually have two tools whenever I do papers. One is Word and one is Canva. So whenever I do research work with less elements in it, less designs in it, I usually use Word. But if a paper requires designs, or if I have to make like an ebook, a brochure, or any print material that is very heavy on design, I usually do them in Canva. And in Canva, one of the downfall in using Canva is that they do not have an automatic page numbering system compared to what Word has. Or maybe Canva does have one, but I haven't used it yet, or I'm just not aware of it yet. So there. Just be very careful when you use Canva, especially if you will be putting page numbers in it. So make sure to double check before you publish or before you export a Canva material as a PDF or as whatever format you want it to be. Just double check your page numbering if they're consistent, if there are no duplicates, so you do not want to have two page threes in it, and that you do not want to have a skipped page as well, because it would also ruin your table of contents. So there. Next, leave enough margins. So don't crowd the text. So standard at least 1 inch on all sides. And if you're going to bookbind, make sure to leave extra space on the binding side just so that it would not be included in the cropped portion of the binded area. So actually the size or the margin actually really depends on the institution where you will be submitting your paper. Some research institutions or some universities for that matter would require different set of rules on margin, so you will have to double check before you submit. So here's an example of one do and a don't. So if an institution requires you to have 1 inch margin all around and 1.5 inches on the left for binding, then do that. However, be very careful not to maximize the edges. Like your text is almost touching the edge of the paper, no space for binding, especially if you will have to. So there. Next, keep line spacing consistent. So, use uniform spacing for clarity. For long documents, use double spaced for easier reading. For shorter material, single spacing is also fine. But for spacing, also please make sure to refer to the uh, institution, university, or the rules set by the institution you'll be submitting your paper to. Make sure to follow their rules before you submit. So here's an example. Double spaced text in a long report is easier to read compared to a no spacing between lines kind of paper where text would look very cramped. For me, personally, it's very difficult for me to read papers or even print material, especially newspaper, when they have very limited line spacing. My eyes find it more tiring to read those kinds of prints. And so the tendency is for me not to read at all, or if I do read it, I will have to read it multiple times before my brain would actually absorb or understand anything. Well, that's for me. Next, tailoring each paragraph. So paragraphs should be kept whole whenever possible. Avoid leaving just one line hanging at the top or bottom of a page. See, keeping paragraphs intact help the readers follow thought clearly without interruptions. Okay? So we do not want to be annoying for some readers. We do not want to be a cliffhanger, especially if the print material or the paper doesn't require us to be a cliffhanger. So there, just like what I mentioned here, whole paragraph fits neatly on one page is perfect. And we should be avoiding one line of a paragraph left hanging at the top of the next page. Okay, so we do not want to be annoying to our readers. We want a smooth flow for easier grasp of information and understanding for our readers. So, in summary, formatting is more than just making a paper look nice. It ensures the message is clear, professional, and taken seriously. We have to make sure the proper use of paper, ink, margin spacing, and numbering. And this makes a document organized and easier to follow. So, clean paragraphs and consistent layout helps ideas flow smoothly without distracting the reader. Good formatting also has practical benefits. It prevents text from being cut off, makes navigation easier, and supports accurate referencing. Now, poor formatting, on the other hand, can weaken even strong content by making it look careless or confusing or cliffhanger. We do not want that. We do not want to be annoying for our readers. And in the end, well-formatted document reflect credibility, order, and respect for audience, helping the message leave a stronger impact. So that ends my report, and I do hope you get something from this report. So see you on the next module.